This is about the participle. A better way to teach English is to teach that this is a participle nature. The actual rules of English, the proper rules of English are that a present participle is always formed by adding ing to a verb. Now, this is in demonstration of the electrical engineering of identity. Now, the identity of a verb becomes no longer a main verb, a predicate, which is in conjunction with a subject, or is standing alone, they say, which means as a one-word sentence, which is still with an independent nature. The independent nature is the subject of what the sciences are teaching actively together with English. So there's not one subject, and we're gonna understand when English was revealed to be taught. Why would it be have been obfuscated? Obfuscated means people um, lying about and distracting observation and communication and understanding of a finite body of value and overall truths and overall nature, which is a sequence nature, which is the phenomenon of everybody wanting inherently truth, because we all share the same positive identity and for a reason. And when we ignore it being attached to criminally legalized um, enterprise nations, to the maintenance of that with criminally legalized human education, multi-front and multi-science with this. For example, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a police, I'm not a criminal. But this there are proofs we're gonna examine that this was to obfuscate, which means make not understood what the predicate act is really in relate. Where criminal enterprises really are, and this is to maintain a criminal justice industries united, policing nature shared by our nations as peace bodies only in relationship to war bodies. And those war bodies have the same enemies as us because we share what was multi-nation that developed the means to have nations the self-defending only let realize trained to the self-defense of language and of positions already reliant upon other experts and groupthink and expert lean and um, mission creep, and nobody and everyone was blaming her. What took over human nature through education and through worse than that, through methods to make mass indifferent natures, mass hurt evidence fabrication natures. They left us Oz with colonization's terror laws, and no one knows how to describe it. Even the natives who know it well the best because they understand that they haven't given up on the dream of the landscape. See, but we're taking the whole earth value away, and what's unchanging positive will just space nature identity and value. The only unchanging one that we share that's been as Earth's value. So, in other words, we're causing Earth's value to go away and never come back. That's what extinction is. It's got nothing to do with survival of the fittest. This is with physical delusions, with the sciences, and with indifferences, and with as hurt conviction natures, with facts. See, I'm talking about down to the finite. I'm not just talking, this is not for emotions. Emotions are the parents' illusions, as my father used to say. He's right. So we're a participle now. And this is also about my discussion with the conversation with the Bible. Before I can get back to that, I have to explain about how the word Allah is used, what was demonstrably used by the ancients to teach about three natures of diffusion. with and as the Trinity and as the value of it. There's a value nature relationship in life. This is observable, for example, with cells, and that we could observe under the microscope. Um, Someday I'd like to get a microscope, and we could look at this, and we could together use our minds to real fast to change the world, because that's what we have to do. Because there's only positive value nature progressions and demonstration of us with proper correlation of our shared identity, while there's negative value nature demonstrations of it, negative value nature progressions and demonstration of it. So as the campus Marcius, we play no game, but because we share one positive identity, there is one. It's a shared high. This has nothing to do with drugs. That's another thing, interscience they did. They intertwined drugs with our originally forced terror police, and this is forced on our founders. Even they left clues for us. We have forced glorifications of them out of context, not the way they wanted to be forced glorified. They don't want us to think with surface values and names. They want us to use real facts, and they want us to understand forgiveness and real free speech and real religious rights. See, for example, if you say extreme Islam, this is a multi-front with facts mistreatments, with evidence fabrication natures. So just because, you know what they do too, they do it at a micro level here and a macro level overall, like in relationship to Islam. They say this guy's a Muslim because he's going after this guy who's making kids dance. That's not a Muslim. The Quran warns of that. The Quran warns of the guy who says he's every way too. These are multi-front, but these people don't do this because it's because of education's fault. People have convictions in their mind, and they've been hurt by others in ways they don't describe. So they explain it to themselves and to others wrong. And what that does is hurt more people. It's a negative value nature progression. And the only reason no one understands it, no one can understand it since ancient times, is because we're on an ulterior from actual value nature system per criminally legalized criminal enterprises that took over human education. They fit the sciences to be self-defended. Only let trained self-defended self-obfuscation of their own selves in relationship to the way, not just the way business is invested, but the way they're invested with business of criminal justice and of titles and of groupthinks and of expertly tactically. This was with colonization's terror laws and terror education before that, before even England. This was before the religion, before the need for religious messengers of God to save human education that was revealed by it, not by God, by Allah, which is different, which is a scientific distinction, because God is a concept in our head that is evolving, that is by only when we reveal, but when we remove to reveal what we actually know, and remove what we do not. It's one with her conviction nature. See, because then people are, when they're being hurt, they're being forced to make convictions, and to have their time consumed and their energy consumed and their thoughts consumed. And these are with complex evidence fabrication methods, having everybody numb and as ours and incapable because of that, and because of social conditionings and awareness to that as practical, which is not practical. There are natures of organized crime that humanity has to understand. So we go back to the participle real fast. The The verb, Eve. Eve's identity. The verb is Eve. And subject is Adam. Eve is energy's very energy without the body, because she's also the value of the alpha in physics, which is with metaphysics juxtaposed to it, and with the value of the wall. So the Trinity is beyond. When we have walls of our houses, this is like the wall of a body of a creature that humanity made. So it's interacting with the environment. It's interacting with the environment, and excuse my appearance. Everything has active demonstration from one of the same thing, same shared positive. But see, the ancients, when they criminally re-engineered the sciences and human education, they knew that what they were doing, what they were going to exploit revelations that had been naturally revealed, and they would never be understood again. They could exploit the nations only let realized as self-defended, as forced shared police, evidence fabrication natures, reliant upon people to explain morality from them that are arch evil. You know what I'm saying? This is a method. This. The devil is not what some fiery guy that some poets drew up. The devil this is a system to speak about human education corruption. Alpha and when Jesus says, "I am the Alpha and I am the Omega," he's talking about ancient campus Marcius. It was criminally re-engineered, every science, and when the sciences are when ratiocination has the sciences to the same task, because that's understanding, that's active value. So we don't have that, and we have it measured. Everyone as Oz entertaining it as other, and as evidence fabrication natures and entertaining it as other, and measured as that, as indifference natures, and anticipated for this in relationship to methods that really stay hurt progressions, negative value nature progressions to all area and crime statistics, and staying crime statistics with physical delusions and self-defense natures to that, and the way they're trained to receive what actually is the problem when people are shooting guns at each other and things like that, and how to respond to that, and how to communicate with the people before they do it, and how to communicate with the people after they did it. Because now they're in a little cell. I want to know there's proofs that there's innocent people in these places, and the people in there don't make distinctions. They just go by what people tell them. So they're like really trying to hurt people in these places, and with everything, there's a total evidence fabrication nations in relationship, for example, to our known forced conformities to terror policing and to their original terror laws with colonization, with things like slavery. That's what had it in the South. But we were already tied to Marxist positions with forced shared terror police that we weren't. So in other words, we demonstrably, when they must have negotiations, they obviously have it where they have to share identities between nations to be police. But but they can't give each other's identity away, because then they can't share a market and fairly police it, because they have market values. They have everyone's not just our nation. Everyone invested, reliant upon all kinds of things. That's why the whole world has colonial infrastructural standards set before they even had cars. They were building better homes, and they had terror laws for them not to build them any better. And they built them partially semi-compromised. In other words, there's always a level of terror that they kept with everything. And this played out, and now we have more modern means to combat it. easier, but we don't have proper infrastructural standards. We don't have proper human standards. And it's because we don't have we don't. No one ever gave us the words for it. No one ever gave the Native Americans the words for it, which is organized crime, and which is criminal enterprise. And the reason they never gave them, one of the reasons is because they have physical delusions attached to what criminal enterprises are, and her convictions attached to what they are, and what's really furthering, into what's really furthering them. And so, because we have still our branches with roles furthering these and juxtaposing and exploiting it in relationship to standard evidence fabrication methods and natures with them. For example, with psychology. And with identity, which is the subject here, with Adam and with Eve, in relationship to a predicate act. Okay, this is what it is when she takes the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and when Adam takes it. And the reason she's taking it first is because man spells mother's alpha neutralizes, and woman spells Wall's omega mother WOM alpha neutralizes. The only neutral is in relationship to ignoring or adhering or to adhering to nature inherent to consciousness. And this is not just with ourselves and with our groups, all the way up to nations and with sexes. This is in relationship to the species too. I forgot the identity. So a participle, Eve becomes, you put ing, it's no longer a verb. The identity changes. So ing is always how the present participle is formed. So now we say, if we say run, that's a verb. You can put it as a one-word sentence because it's an independent nature and it's unobstructed. So that's the identity of what consciousness is, of what understand, and not just what consciousness is, but what nature inherent to consciousness is too. Because nature inherent to consciousness is what is really looking for itself. Nature overall is just temporary value of eating, the temporary value of having the phenomena of consciousness diffusing through our bodies before this. These are the two longings. These hold invisible to the two lowercase values of Allah. They hold them as uppercase value, because the uppercase letters of the English alphabet are drawn to teach about unchanging positive value, what it looks like. And that's three ways, the Trinity, what it looks like. But the letters of English, for example, the A too, again, like in my other video, I explained the two parts of the A that are the space areas. Those are drawn to be, everything is drawn for a reason. The only reason that line isn't drawn in value A where it appears in value W, capital W, which you see value A, that's value A in capital W. The only reason it doesn't have that line is because it's inside that range. It's inside that extreme range. We're going to get to this, but this is the we're one shared identity and demonstration of itself actively and as itself, no matter which body it's in. And it demonstrates through positive and negative value nature progressions, but these themselves are obfuscated from our perception, not just in the present, but per a method that knows that we're investing ourselves in justifying staying this way in relationship to business, in relationship to policing nature of that that was originally forced. In relationship to healthcare, with that was originally forced and masked with all kinds of stuff that's not healthcare. For example, in relationship to forced breached elections since before our founding and beyond the means of leaders to understand. Kings and queens and chiefs, they didn't understand this. Not one president has understood. This is why none of them have explained the criminal enterprise motivations, the evidence fabrication methods in the present and for long term, with the linguistic games, with the colors, with the law, with red and black and white and yellow and brown, and that was consciously to create what we have today with facts treatments and with treatments of ourselves as hurt conviction nature is incapable of making the language to defend our common positive value. So we make hurt convictions self-defending justifications of blaming types. So now we're blaming human rights with our, you see that, and no one, no one, and that's being glorified, having rights respected culturally. Only what's inherent to culture is of value. The rest of culture is all bad stuff. All these cultures failed. Low campus. The campus failed. We had a campus with a dunce cap in the rear and shackles. Campus Marcius calls. As you, we are the shared identity. Religion. Religion. This is a calling inherent to religion, which is the correction of this campus lost. This once first revealed before criminal persuasions were cultivated to the world per a method that took the world, nature, to sabotage education. As an individual, we can only be positive nature when we are it always. The nations justifying pretending businesses as there is such a thing as stability with modern standards, just in relationship to the modern infrastructure, in relationship to the means to correlate, the sabotaged Mashantucket and all the American landscape. Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Museum is the oldest Native American museum. They don't even remember all of it. They remember all their woods getting burned down. They remember losing all their foodstuffs, original. They remember parts of it. They remember losing their clam beds, the whole water changing. They remember that, but at being forced to mark its positions with the food values and stuff like that, all controlled. And there was all narratives about how they're going to be in business and stuff like that. We're going to do mass farming and there's going to be agricultural at UConn and everyone's going to do the business. And everyone fell for it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to make enemies but I'm trying to say everyone fell for it. That was with legal natures that were forcing shared policing. These were the ones who wrote the terror laws. They had slavery in New England. They had this with insidious roles with psychology with the courts and with methods of evidence fabrication where they have the courts and legal natures only train realized as Oz to the self-defensive roles with this where they don't say anything because they're trained that's medical information. And this nature then is affected further to have to justify that with lies that aren't supposed to be had in relationship, and they just call it, the courts are Oz in relationship to negative value nature progressions, in relationship to the way they're self-defended up to the point of having to speak for unchanging positive, and it's not been spoken for correctly in any nation. So we're going to see how how participating with a criminal enterprise especially a criminally legalized criminal enterprise. Because this, once you're doing that, then you have the criminal enterprise problems. Because you're worse, you're the ones making the problems with these gang kids. Because they're controlling, they're using them for evidence fabrications, systemic fake witnesses. No one's leaving reading police reports because they're not putting it right. They're just putting charges and putting lies and giving shifting police reports, admitting they're broken. They're adapting to lie progressions. We have natures of organized crime in relationship to education that are playing out with the natures of our stewards. So people don't have the words for it, so they blame the cop, they blame the white man, they blame each other, they blame like in other words each other, anyone. Then they want to hold the types too because they want to take counters to it as self defend that. So now the nature of that person, which is a victim, and everyone stays victim, but everyone stays justifying and using language and entertaining language with human rights that is her conviction. So we can't discipline what is internation that has our nation forced to hundreds of different nations sharing police and market positions that were originally forced with terror and with laws and with methods and with entrenchments to all areas that we can't even imagine. We can, but we don't have anywhere to defend the free speech for it because having the branches set up as her conviction natures. Then when we start bringing the truth about them, they have to hurt us because they don't want to get hurt by the same law that they have. Well, everyone's friendly because that's the nature of being trained by the campuses, and there are proofs of this. But they forced this to be pled out in courts before juries, forced pseudo-educated too, with her conviction natures, with inter-science problems. I'm not saying that people aren't wise enough. I'm saying people don't understand how courts. This is why in other words, they don't understand the criminal justice problem. They don't understand how we have innocent people in jail. It's because of the facts treatments. It's because of evidence fabrication methods that have to be self-defended by even the appointed lawyers because they're taking directions from police forms and stewards with our branches that when we realize compromised as well. So there's two natures of clauses. You could say, oh, there's an adverbial clause, but there's only an independent nature of clause, independent clause. The definitions in the book, they tell you it could be its own sentence. But you could put a period at the end of an independent clause because it has a main verb and has a subject. But we call it a clause, for example, because then if you're going to put a comma or a semicolon or a colon, then we're gonna have another segment of the same overall independent nature because the nature of a sentence is only independent when it's complete. That's why a subject can't be a one-word sentence, and a verb can. But that's because a verb is in relationship. This is in relationship to the electrical engineering of identity. A verb is of the nature of a woman, of what makes the difference between men and women in relationship to what it's demonstrating commonly. In other words, it's not a common value to either. It's not a positive value to a man or a woman as a physical difference. It's only a positive. It's only positive nature. We have a shared positive identity. And this is a demonstration of us. And when our identity is wrong, there are negative value nature progressions. And but when it is right, then we connect. We are in nature within an extreme that won't that it will not go beyond. But when we are in the nature it is. It connects with a larger nature, its larger nature, and that forces positive value nature progressions. That forces evolution. What forces it is actively inherent to consciousness. And this is only in relationship to how consciousness has an active relationship to all their values. It is because there is one overall body of value that is unchanging, that is positive to all parts of space. So even when we are negative value nature, because we're not on its positive value nature progression demonstrations, and we're worse than that because we lost ancient revelations, ancient queens of the past, kings of the past, and even regular people, even low colonization, they lived to the ages we're living now. We have a little bit of different. We have difference. We don't have a mass death and mid deaths and things like that. But the medical nature was always tied to criminal policing natures too. We never had the words to explain this. We never had free speech or track. That's why we never had free science. That's why we have problems with our schools and with areas. These aren't mental problems with our streets and with our schools and with the media, with animals, with delusion. They spread rumors, and they pretend people take drugs that doctors prescribe, because they do force that in people, and they pretend they were in conversations with people. They forge other doctors' names. They do sick stuff in Wethersfield. Through time, they've done it. Wethersfield, Connecticut, and with colonization, and with Hartford, Connecticut, between New York and Boston. We're going to learn about the Institute of Living and drug dealing roles with them, with interstate drugs and stuff like that. For them, there's two Brendan Leahy's. It's on paper. I got one guy's name. I'm assuming that's his father, because I heard that he had a father that was a bad guy involved with drugs and stuff like that. And they attached me to fake conversations about 9/11 and about my father and about my family. They attached my wife to fake conversations about me, and they did worse things. And I never had a conversation with them. They don't even know me. They know my face because they have friends who made confessions to me about them after they had graduated high school. They came back to make confessions about me one time, like short period of time. Anyways, the point is, when a verb is not used as a main verb, as an independent nature, as a one-word sentence, or as a main verb, where it's still an independent nature, because it's still connected to the subject. It's still connected to complete positive nature, identity, shared, together. And when it's not, now, if you have another verb inside, if you're going to use that verb inside that independent nature, independent clause, it's going to have to be a participle. You inflect it. In other words, you put the ing ending on the end. Now the engineering of of the identity, the nature of the identity of the verb becomes a participle. The present participle is always formed by putting ing. That's what all the books say on the end of words. Present participle. So running would be running. Because now it's a noun, it's no longer a verb. And then to, if I said to run, I put the word to before the word run. Now it's an infinitive, to run. You can't, you can, it's not an independent nature. It's a complete positive identity. It's a semi-positive identity. Only what is inherent to what is completely positive is positive. So the subject is Adam. Adam is the man. Mother's alpha neutralizes. It is only what is man as what is the nature that will only be independent to the woman that is positive, and vice versa. We're only semi-positive because all semi-positives have unchanging positive inherent to it. Why? Because semi-positive space nature, semi-temporary space nature, has unchanging nature diffusing through it. And so we have a past participle, but it's no longer with the act is the active identity. The present participle too is no longer with the active identity, the independent nature. So only one verb could be a main verb in an independent clause. All other verbs have to be, if they're going to be used in the same independent clause, they have to be inflected to be a participle nature or to be an infinitive nature. Now this is with English grammar, but this is in relationship to when Adam and Eve take the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. They committed a predicate act because they now this is to teach about how they're using like nations human value is using ulterior from the only natural value nature system and per criminal persuasions and criminal insidiousness. So now they have to hide finite body and overall truths per what comes out per human nature having to fix the negative value nature progressions caused by criminal enterprises, especially by criminally legalized criminal enterprises. And that's what killed us, because now we have the only existence, the only unchanging positive and demonstration to us actively obfuscated from us, interscience and at once multi-front. So that's why the predicate act is plausible that the predicate act has been set up to be misunderstood since ancient times in relationship to its uses here in relationship to interstate organized crime methods and groups, and in relationship to what really facilitates them, which is what originally facilitated our original prostrations law, original forced internation or organized crime juxtapositions with terror police and terror laws. See, they had the terror laws not out of prejudice. It was multicultural. There was a multicultural police, a minority, with a method to maintain the mass of humanity, self-defending our own roles as its breaching nature, as her evidence fabrication natures, as her conviction natures, as her as indifference natures, to all, just indifference and giving up to all areas, real morality and real potentials. So this is what Native American dreams are so important for, because of the whole American landscape was denatured tactically. Not just we know they took out the buffalo and all kinds of, they did way worse They took out, they put all the streams underground. They pollute them on purpose because then we don't have we don't have to take care of fish. They live under ice. You know what I'm saying? You put freshwater coral. You put the ponds right deep with the right breeding spots for the mixture of the animals, and that's it. We don't even need to waste all so much gas and so much energy on fish. We have better fish. We have freshwater fish. Uh, Chow Mia, or there's a famous cookbook. She says that I never had it, but largemouth bass. She says one of the best tasting fish. We don't have them in any of the stores. New England shot. We had the best ponds. Everything was denatured, like military precision, right through the guises of our nation's militaries, right through the guises of pseudo sophistications, the nation's over, pseudo identity, self defending. So that's that's how we're gonna learn. This is my faith, and we're gonna see the proofs of it though, and then we could argue about it, but we can't do it with forced offensive evidence fabrications, offensive evidence sequence shifting, offensive attaching of lies to truths, uh, and all kinds of fake moral guises. We have sick branches. We have sick nations. That's what the agenda they have of these exploited Syrians, these narratives with treatments of everything, with the bombs, and with business, and with human standards. And that's everyone's looking through physical delusions and through contrast because they can't, because no one was ever let. Everyone was only let to entertain that, not by accident. So a participle is put ing on a word, on a verb, and now its identity changes. So when you start using ulterior from the only actual value nature system and demonstration to us. See, this is the campus Marcius. We are a shared positive identity. We are a shared legion. And when we're not, we are a religion. We longing to it. And we long all that is not positive value in nature away from us. Because that's what space nature's positive identity does. But we're not doing that. Because we're on ulterior from natural value nature systems. For example, that's why when anyone, when they think about the cities, when they think about the human value standards, forced, justified, they can't find words for it. And they're trained from our campuses out for other ulterior reasons insidiously to blame it on the white man, or to blame it on anything but what it actually is, which is evidence fabrication natures and hurt conviction natures to all areas, Oz, exploited indifferences, and how, and no one being able to handle the real truth because everyone's so in defense of logic with opinions that are forcing that this is the only way, this business, this pathology, with these infrastructural standards, with this denatured landscape, with divided business means, because no one has time because everyone's invested with it. So we need the top-down nations to admit they're broke, especially the ones with bombs. Forget about it. They have the means to build. See, you have to understand space nature and how it works with the walls of our homes, and how everything works together. When you put that right, if we put everything we have into it, if we're that nature with that agenda to be a shared nation, to move our standards up, everyone wins, no one loses, and we take the business right out of the education. We'll just donate the whole thing. Plus, we should be able to just take those old those old what are they called? The encyclopedias, the volumes with the old things that the people say are racist. See, those are proofs. Not about racism. Not about racism. That's why they push them away. They want to make everyone see. Those are in relationship to modern evidence fabrication natures who need to lie about the past. So they want the past. They need to let the past in finite ways over for different. So they need the past obfuscated. See, in other words, if we understand this game, then we don't. No one gets hurt by that, because we know criminal legal natures did that with those terror laws. We didn't. Colors and hate didn't do that stuff. Terror legal natures and what's playing out is doing it because everyone's on different pages and everyone's being exploited in different ways. And what's exploiting it is using their intercity means and to be able to play that game with self-defending little group cliques. And this is in relationship to the international police influences over over these cultural groups, group things of the because these are all pseudo identity natures. These are all tactically forced self-defense. Only let realize self-defended pseudo identity nations. In other words, we're causing negative value nature progressions. And because we're causing negative value, and we're not even causing, we're not even realizing how we're being measured, entertaining that we're doing this. Because the system was and is to exploiting how we do that, how our nations do that. It's internation. That's what these. It's always been juxtaposed with these gangs, and with medical corruption. This is why we have so many problems with the pills. It's per the nature we have the people mixed with the street gangs, the healthcare people, and they want to have trial. They want like regular people to try them. We have to just deal with facts. So we have top-down lies and hurt conviction natures being forced offensive with threats, demonstrating that they pretend that they forget information and write in lies and are directed to. We have problems. We still have these problems with our nations, and we have intercultural unities, and then we have the polarity movements too, which are just two fronts to the same thing. The only movement that is right is the one that's for always positive, which is species, body of value, and with the finite, before and with the finite. So we're going to have to learn metaphysics, and we're going to have to understand language that explains criminal insidiousness with what are called good people. Everyone's a good people. Even those hurt, really sick people in prisons. This is human education sick. Criminal justice as an international market position. We need to take that money. You know that I don't know about our stewards, but the whole thing's got to go. We can't keep. We have to admit and understand organized crime and criminal enterprises in relationship to our nation's original impositions. Otherwise, it's blamed on lies and delusions, and it divides and conquers. That's what divide and conquer means. The rest is wars that they're playing out as tool evidence fabrication natures for more sophisticated, complex litigation, criminal enterprises, and evidence fabrication methods and treatment, coercion methods. It's worse than groupthink. It's worse than mission creep, which is with the world wars.